Bill loves that shit.
Oh, that snuck in there live.
Yeah, we're live. So normally I do the whole song and dance, tell you the episode number, this and that and the other thing. But fellas, it's 100 episodes, man. We did 100 of these things. 100. I can't believe it. Um, obviously, if you haven't figured it out by now, it's kind of disconcerting. It is the fantasy timeline. It is episode 100. And as always, we are proud to be a part of the Dynasty Addicts podcast network. But, let's get to business. Fellas, episode 100. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, man, doing good. It's pretty crazy that we're almost 2 years into this thing, and every week. I don't know if there's been a week where we didn't do the show in some fashion or another. So pretty consistent, and yeah, man, it's crazy. It's pretty hard to believe it's been that many episodes already.
What about you, Drew? How you feeling, man?
I'm good. Just traveled with a family to North Carolina to see the family out here. So just settling into a new spot and so excited. I know I joined you guys a little bit late in all this, but been listening to the timeline for a long time and just so thrilled to be a part of this momentous occasion.
Yeah, and honestly, we'll talk about this throughout, but I I don't know if I could honestly have picked two better people to do it with. It has been a ton of fun chatting it up with you guys, learning from you guys, because both you guys are so smart at this thing, and I just pick up stuff all the time and end up vanquishing opponents in other leagues with it. So it's always a good time. Bill and I have debated about usually a lot of the lower level of fantasy player. We usually don't get too riled up about the guys that you talk about every week, but Bill and I have gotten into some heated debates about the lower rung of fantasy players, and it's always fun, man. We can get back and forth on each other, and after the show, chat about whatever's going on in our lives, and like it didn't even happen. So that's the best kind of relationship to have, is one where you can go back and forth with one of your best friends and just have fun. So um, throughout the show, we'll talk about it. We're probably obviously going to go long because let's face it, it's 100 episodes. So keeping it to the hour time constraint that we also never stick to is going to be impossible this week. So we're gonna have fun. We're gonna max and relax. And so there's some news. There was a lot of news actually. People were getting traded and all this stuff, but uh, fantasy wise, Matt Nagy uh, has announced he has graced us with the knowledge that Justin Fields will be the starter. Maybe until Andy Dalton comes back. I don't know. But Matt Nagy said that Justin Fields is the starter for now. And my comment to that is, yeah, I figured that out 3 weeks ago that he should have been the starter. So, uh, Bill, well, does this do anything for you, or any surprise, anything about it?
No, I think that everybody was stunned that he didn't come out as a starter, right? Like in week one. I think that at least I think that the coaching staff just wanted to get him more comfortable with the NFL, that sort of thing. I don't necessarily have like high hopes for him this season, but I think we'll see flashes. But I think we're going to see a lot of mistakes, just like we have. It's not like the team is built to let him be efficient or anything like that. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that he was named the starter because who else are they gonna name as a starter? And once you start your first round rookie quarterback, you can't really pull him back out, right?
Hold on, Bill. We're gonna have to have an argument about Matt Nagy now. Matt Nagy, that man does whatever he wants. at one point he said Nick Foles could have been the starter. Like, this dude is just like, he's like that crazy dude you play Madden against. You're like, I don't know why he is lining up for a punt on 2nd and 3. What is this guy doing? That's Matt Nagy. Like, he's that guy where it's like, next week Nick Foles might be the starter because he decides he's smarter than everybody else. And I mean, he set him up to fail in that first game. I mean,
I wonder if he's the one pulling the strings in that.
What, in the game plan for the first
No,
game?
and putting him like, I mean,
Oh,
do you think the ownership wouldn't say nope? You know, your first round pick quarterback is going to be starter.
I would hope that Matt Nagy could have came to that on his own, but you're right. Ownership may have stepped in and said, "Listen, I know you think you're the smartest guy in the room, but Justin Fields is going to be the starter. Figure it out from there." Drew, does this do anything for you? I know we've always argued about who loves Justin Fields more. So, does this news do anything for you?
It gives me some level of comfort this year that, especially in the places that I have him as my QB3 and Superflex, where I need a bye week filler. Otherwise, no. It was just a matter of time, and it was that tension of how long do I need him to sit and learn to really kind of get a hold of the speed of the game versus how much do I really believe in the talent and that he'll figure it out no matter when he starts. So he's getting an earlier start. I believe in the talent. We've talked about that for a long time. I hope they do right by him in the offseason and get him some help, whether it's offensive line, whether it's another weapon. But I'm excited to see what he does, and those flashes will be really, really exciting, and try to temper the frustration when it doesn't go as well as I hope.
Yeah, my prayers for Justin Fields is that they realize that Matt Nagy ain't that dude. They kick him to the curb, and they bring in one of these hot shot offensive coordinators, maybe Joe Brady from Carolina. I was blanking on his name for a little bit. Maybe Kellen Moore from Dallas. Maybe another. I know Brian Dable from Buffalo was a hot name last year, and actually kind of. I think the Bills doing so well prevented him from getting a job, but maybe this year a team will wait for him. I mean, a team like Chicago should actually wait for the best guy. Hard to believe, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean that's probably the biggest news from all of the hustle and bustle in the NFL today. So on that note, week 4 officially in the books. We're a quarter-ish way through the season now. Now it's 17 games. It's not a quarter anymore, but close enough. So we gotta do our good, our bad, and our ugly, man. We gotta tell the people, what they hit on and what we missed on. So I'll start us off like we always do. Good. Tyreek Hill. Holy hell, man. There were a couple weeks where people were, the production wasn't there from Tyreek Hill and people, were yelling about it and everything. And if you really know Tyreek Hill, you knew this was just coming back. It was just a matter of time before, and I mean, he came back 11 receptions, 186 yards, 3 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes was on fire. Tyreek Hill was on fire. The offense was on fire, and it showed. So that was my week 1 good. Um, Bill, why don't you go next? Who was your good? No, you're muted.
Yep. My number or week 4 good is Daniel Jones, 400 yards and 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. And against at least what we thought was a good defense in New Orleans. That was a pretty surprising a stat and a win, right? So those are pretty impressive. I mean, especially because he's playing minus, certain weapons. I mean, I know that Saquon got better and, healthier, like we talked about the last few weeks, expecting week 4, week 5, when he's really going to be back to his normal self. And I think think it's safe to say that we're seeing that now. So yeah, I think it helped out, and Galladay and him clicked a little bit, and even Tony,
Kadarius Toney,
yeah, like I mean, everything seemed to be making a little more sense in that offense this week, and he seemed to click a little bit better than he had, and I think that's why sometimes it's hard to judge anything in that first quadrant of games. Really, just you got to really see what's going on and kind of get the full story before you react after 2 or 3 games. And I think not to say that Daniel Jones is going to be a QB 8 the rest of the season or anything, but at least there's some hope now. And so yeah, I mean, I think that was a good sign, and I think that maybe what a lot of people didn't have much hope after week 3, at least there's signs pointing in the right direction now.
And Bill, in the year of our Lord 2021, Daniel Jones resurrected John Ross for one big touchdown play. That was it. But he had the power to resurrect John Ross. So that right there should make him an automatic QB1 for the rest of the season, just for doing that by itself. But I like that one, and some good analysis on top of it. All right, Drew, who was your good for this week?
I just saw Larry chime in the chat here, and his old fat head here of Sam Darnold. Picked him up late in my redraft this year, and so glad I did as my QB3. And he is, if I think I saw a tweet earlier this week, if there's ever a guy that should be fired before he gets an interview, it's Adam Gase. When you look at what Darnold has done this year, 3 straight games of 300 plus yards throwing. It's not Lamar Jackson. It's not Kyler Murray. It's not Josh Allen, but it's Sam Darnold, who is leading the NFL quarterbacks in rushing touchdowns this year. So good to see him putting it together and doing well in that system. So really happy for him. I think I was kind of middle of the road on him when he came out. Thought maybe he was a little overrated. Got a bum spot with the Jets to start. So glad to see him get a shot here again and do something great with it.
Yeah, and it's funny that you brought up you brought up Adam Gase in the Sam Darnold discussion. He is currently the offensive coordinator for a high school team, and I was trying to look it up while you were talking, but I had heard somewhere that this team is getting like they're getting like run over in high school. I mean, this is where Adam Gase has ended up, and even in the high school level, being just not even through osmosis, being around other NFL quality head coaches, has he picked up enough to guide high schoolers to respectability. So it was kind of a running joke because we had seen guys like Ryan Tannehill break away, and guys like Kenyon Drake and Damian Williams bust away and have really productive seasons. And the talk was just, for some reason, that Sam Darnold was bad. Like, he was so bad that it wasn't all Adam Gase's fault. But now we're starting to see that it might have been all Adam Gase's fault. And he is lighting it up for Carolina. They had an awesome game last week against the Dallas Cowboys. They came up a little short, but it was not because of Sam Darnold. That's for dang sure. And one of the moves we were talking about earlier, the last couple of days have been kind of big for moves, which is kind of weird. You don't usually see a lot of movement. They traded a 6th-round pick to get Stephon Gilmore. So now, the rich just keep getting richer. And I mean, I think they're going to be a team that could, knock on a wild card spot and, possibly cause headaches for, a top, 1 or 2 seed, just based on good coaching, good quarterback play, and pretty good defense. So we'll see what's going on. But now, Drew, we gotta go to the bad. We gotta talk about the bad here.
Yeah, I mean, one other thing. I mean, they're doing that without CMC for the last couple of weeks too. So I mean, when they get him back, and it's going to be a lot of fun. They're going to make Brady work for it down in Tampa. So For the bad side, man, Davis Mills. Not that we expected a whole lot out of him this year. I love my Bills, and I want to think that they are the dominant defense in the NFL. I mean, they're doing well this year so far, but 11 for 21 and 87 yards and 4 picks. I put in my notes here. He's bordering Nathan Peterman light when you look at his performance this last Sunday. So great morale boost for the Bills, but he's got a lot to figure out. So who knows what the heck is going on down in Houston, where they're going to land, and all this. But as of right now, it does not look like Davis Mills is the answer.
No, and the good news is that they should have a pretty high pick. So hopefully they're in a prime spot to get a quarterback, and maybe if everything with Deshaun Watson clears up, they can they can get some assets for him as well and move him on and ship him out. All right, Bill, it's time for your bad. Who was bad this week?
Yeah, my bad is just the news again for Will Fuller getting injured, going on IR again. It's this is the one time I guess that he hasn't really shown when he is playing. Maybe there was something to be said for these performance enhancers or whatever that he got popped for. Where he actually had a full season, because we haven't really seen anything other than that. I mean, so it's hard to put any faith in him. I mean, he's a guy I don't mind on my roster just because if he does play, maybe he can get me some big games, and I know when I can or can't start him. But I'm not sure that I'm going to go out of my way to add him just because he's, is he going to be the same as he was pre his suspension? So
Right.
even when he does play, even if it's 5 games a year or whatever. So rough to take another hit with him, man. It's just something he's bailed with, pretty much every season. So
Yeah, I'm curious too if his very short time in the lineup, because he was suspended week 1 and then he didn't play week 2 because there was some kind of a personal issue, and then he came in week 3 and that was the same week that Tua got hurt. So could things have been different with Tua? Who knows? That's something you'll never know. But yeah, man, this latest trip to the IR is 3 more weeks of him just getting you zeros, obviously. And then, does Jalen Waddle establish himself as the dominant guy there? Do they start looking more? Seems like Mike Gesicki has gotten more involved the last couple of weeks. Does that trend continue? There's a lot there, so it'll be very curious to see what happens to him and what his role is when he gets back. So that's definitely a good one. Um, my bad was Mike Davis. 13 attempts for 14 yards. Like I get it, man. Like running in the NFL has got to be hard, but practically 1 yard a carry. I mean, and then he did get a receiving touchdown, two receptions for 12 yards and a receiving touchdown. So you were saved, I guess, if you started. I don't even know if saved is the right word, but it was better than what it could have been without the touchdown.
That's enabling bad behavior right there.
Yeah, like I don't know a word because it's not quite saved, but it was better for you due to the touchdown. But yeah, I mean, listen, somehow, we talked about Kyle Pitts being the number 2 option there, and there was some small chatter about maybe Russell Gage, and it apparently Cordarrelle Patterson is the is the number 2 option there, which is, by the way, I don't know if anybody was talking about that before the season started. So he's hot right now. He's doing a damn thing right now, and good for him. I mean, he's been in the league forever, and maybe Arthur Smith was the guy to unlock him the whole time. But I'm gonna flow right into my ugly, and we haven't done this for a full 100 episodes of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but I've always tried to keep it fantasy focused when I do mine. But I'm going off the episode 100. I'm going off the beaten path a little bit. I know that surprises Bill in every way possible. He knows I'm always straight on task and never deter. But Urban Meyer, dude, Urban, I'm not even going to talk about all the bar stuff because that's that's between him and his wife.
That's
Handle
what I
your
want to
business.
talk about.
Handle your well. You could talk about it. I'll give you the time to talk about it if you want. That's between him and his wife, and I don't get in the middle of nobody's married affairs. But your team is 0-4. You lose a Thursday night game where you had a halftime lead. The team looked good in the first half. It looked like, whoo, look what's going on. Let's go. And then the second half was just flat. And honestly, Trevor Lawrence was out there, and you could tell he was trying to pull out every trick that he had to secure the win for the Jaguars, and he couldn't overcome Urban Meyer. And we're talking, we talked about Trevor Lawrence during the draft process as being the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning. And somehow Urban Meyer hasn't figured out a way to make him look like the best prospect since Justin Herbert. And that's a problem. I didn't expect him to be Justin Herbert, but I mean, he's throwing like 2 interceptions a game. I didn't expect that. So, Urban, besides the fact that you're doing all kinds of weird stuff in the bar, maybe you should have flown back with the team and maybe come up with a game plan. 10 days. Maybe you should have used all 10 since your team is 0-4. But Drew, I'll let you talk about it now. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean it's just ridiculous. He's got to know better, and anyhow, I saw the statement that he put out and that Shad Khan put out afterwards. But there is an element of I don't think there's a real separation of who you are as a person and the work that you do. So it ultimately it's not surprising. I think when you look at some of the results early on here in the NFL, I don't follow college closely enough to know what his history has been with the different schools he's been in. He's obviously had decent success at some of the bigger programs, but NFL is a totally different game, and I think that's what you've seen in the history when a lot of these college coaches come in and they struggle early on, and it's a totally different job description. It's not, football is not football is not football, So I'm certainly not surprised. It's got to be tough for some of the young guys here that we're hoping to have, a lot of fun this year with the Jags, whether it's Trevor Lawrence, who's never lost a regular season game in his life or something like that until the NFL. He's got to have somebody that can guide him through that. And if your head coach isn't the person, I'm not sure who is. So I feel bad for some of the players here that have waited a long time to get their shot, and this is what their first experience is with the NFL. So hopefully he pulls it together, and whether it's him departing and doing the right thing, getting out of the way for the next person to come in, or if he can really get his stuff together and be a coach for this team. So, but yeah, as far as the stuff between him and his family or whatever, that's I just keep getting this image of that. The side table with all the pictures, and there are some quality photoshops this last week. So the internet always wins.
It does. And one more thing before we throw it back to Bill and his ugly. So this man was a head football coach at Ohio State just a couple of years ago. This wasn't 10 years ago, 15 years ago. This was just a couple of years ago. I have to imagine probably more than once he stood up in front of his team at Ohio State and he said, fellas, everybody's got a camera. You got to be careful with everything you do in public because any picture can be taken at any time. And then he goes out and does this. I'm just like, don't you remember those talks that you had with your team Didn't you remember, hey guys, just be careful. Any picture can be taken at any time, and you know, I said this a couple weeks ago, and now I think more than ever, I don't think you see Urban Meyer as the head football coach in Jacksonville. Week one of the 2022 season, he's probably best suited to go back to college. USC is open. I'm sure they have a lot of bars in that area of California as well. And he can go do his thing and lead a team to championships. But Bill, why don't you hit us with your ugly?
Yeah, my ugly what is Miles Gaskin. 2 carries, 3 yards, 0 targets. For somebody that you hoped would maybe be an RB2 for you, maybe. If not RB3. Like, I mean, getting that kind of usage and it's slowly like decreasing, it looks like. And I mean, I know they were getting beat up, but they were getting beat up a couple weeks ago, and he at least was getting touches. So like, it's just one of these things where like, where is this headed for him? Like, it's like they just don't know what they want to do with their running game, and maybe it's just because the games have been so different, each of them. But there's like just a total lack of identity for that run game. And I know it's Brissett, so it's kind of tough to like give too much value to what happened this week, but it's not looking promising.
No, and I was a bit. I was actually on both the Mike Davis and Miles Gaskin bandwagon, and not because I thought they were super talented, but because I thought volume is king. And you're starting to see in both situations that the volume is drying up at an alarming rate. And those guys, you know, their skill level, and um, if they're not getting the volume on top of it, I mean, that's rough. All right, Drew, we're kicking it to you. You got the last pick in the snake here. Who is your ugly?
I had to go with OBJ. I know he's had a struggle with Baker getting on the same page consistently. Injuries don't help that. But if there were ever a time while Landry is out, you would think that they'd get some extra working together and make some things happen here. But this last week, he had 2 end zone targets. He had 4 targets that were 20 plus yards. He had something like 160 total air yards and ended up with 2 catches for 27 yards. I know they're not a high volume passing offense, but to get targets like that and some high value targets too, I think in most standard PPR leagues, he ended up with less than 6 points for people that started them, including yours truly. So that is not what you want to see. And I've probably been hanging on a little too long, hoping to get some flashbacks to 2015. But yeah, even so, super disappointing.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that last week he went 5 for 77 right off of that injury. So we were like, oh, maybe, it's been figured out. It's a good first showing. And I mean, I shouldn't say we, I thought, all right, he's hitting the ground running and he's just going to take off from here. And then, like you said, we get 2 for 27. He's got 1.5 million air yards, and we can't figure out why we're not even hitting 5 points with OBJ. So yeah, that's a little disconcerting on that one. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We will hopefully he'll get back on track, and all the OBJ owners out there will be happy, happy, happy. So all right, let there's been a lot of questions that have come through the chat, and I wanted to save them until after Good, Bad, and Ugly. So let's hit it. Let's get some questions out here. This first one here is from Ridley Truther. You guys keep it up. Appreciate that, man. What are your thoughts on Kamara? Got a league with him, super win now mode. Would love your opinions. Do I hold and shoot for the ship this year, or try to move for a wide receiver / running back? Listen, I'll start this one off. Do what you got to do to win a championship. Uh, I'm always about the championship. Obviously, if your team is bad, which your team does not seem like it is, because you're saying it's super win now. Listen, shoot your shot. You win the league, guess what? Your name is in the record books forever in that league. Nobody can take that championship away from you. And you've won enough money probably to pay your league fees for at least another 5 years while you rebuild the thing and figure it out and go on another stretch of winning. So keep him unless you get a banger of a deal. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, if you get offered DeAndre Swift and Devontae Adams, don't take that deal because you have Alvin. No, take that deal. That's a hell of a deal. That's a deal that should be an instant accept. But I'm not moving him just for the sake of moving him. I'm not. I don't think I would move him for like a Darrell Henderson, Debo Samuel type package. I think I'm keeping Alvin Kamara because I know it's a little shaky right now in New Orleans, but I have to believe Sean Payton is smart enough to get the ball in the hands of his best offensive player. So, yeah, I mean, keep him unless you get just like a sweetheart deal that you can't deny. And, make some other moves. If you have picks, trade those picks in for players that are producing right now and can put points on the board for you right now. If you have, young guys that people are high on but maybe haven't produced as of yet, trade those chips in for, you know, vets that are, that can actually put points on the board and aren't just high upside assets. So that's what I would do. Drew, what would you do in this situation with Alvin Kamara?
I'm on the same page, Josh. I want to do whatever I can. If I feel like I've got a strong chance to compete and go the distance this year, I want to give, because that's what we're here for, is to win. I think you're going to have enough of a window even after this year that you could still get a decent return, maybe during the draft next year. There's certainly deals like Josh, you're saying that you should consider if you get a great offer for a guy that you like. If I'm sitting in that position and I can get, maybe a Kareem Hunt, who I think has a similar timeline left in his career. If somebody's a little bit lower on him because he's in a split with Chubb, maybe I can get Kareem Hunt plus something else that'll give me some depth to feel good about my odds this year. Or if I get Monte, who hasn't quite picked it up, got another contender that isn't as patient as I am. If I can get Javonte plus another piece that I like that'll help me win this year. But at the end of the day, you got to do what's going to give your team the best shot to win this year. Especially if what I'm gathering is maybe you've got some older pieces around him as well. So the draft is when you can move things around, and even post draft, maybe you miss out because you've already sent your picks away for the 2022. As soon as August comes back next year, people will be looking for the win now pieces again. Kamara should be a part of that. So I don't think the value drops off a cliff for him between now and next August. So I would lean toward holding in most cases unless you get a really good deal that does continue to help you win now.
Bill, I know you had to step out for a sec, but we're talking about Alvin Kamara. Ridley Truther hit us with the question.
Yep.
He's got Kamara on the Super Win Now team and wants to know.
I agree with Drew. I think he's a hold unless you're getting something you're really happy with. And honestly, I wouldn't make the move right now anyway. I would wait until a little bit later in the season when you have the opportunity to see where your team really is. And, somebody might be a little bit more willing to be aggressive to win this year. So I would definitely hold for now, and maybe week 7, week 8, reevaluate and see maybe if that's a better time to make a move.
All right. So this next one we got here is from Joey, and Joey says he needs 2 wide receivers. I'm assuming for this week. He's got Robert Woods, Tyler Boyd, Marvin Jones, Courtland Sutton, and Laviska Shenault. So he needs 2 for this week. That's tough. Has anyone heard about what T. Higgins' status is for this game? because that could possibly change what I say. Um, because if
No.
T. Higgins is not going to play, I think it's Robert Woods and Tyler Boyd. But if T. Higgins is going to play, this may shock people. It probably won't shock Bill because Bill knows me. But I would probably go Robert Woods and Marvin Jones. Um, DJ Chark is out. We know he's out for the season. It seemed like at least those first couple weeks that he and Trevor Lawrence had a connection there. So those would be my two. Cortland Sutton is talented as hell, but man, if it's another Drew Lock experience, oof, I'm staying away from all Broncos receivers. And Visca had a nice game on Thursday night, but is that going to last? Is that or so that's. I mean, I think that would be. I think it all depends on T. Higgins. If he plays, I'm going with Marvin Jones. If he doesn't play, I'm going with Boyd. But either way, I got Robert Woods in there. Bill, what do you think?
For me, it's pretty easy. It's Robert Woods and Tyler Boyd, regardless of the T. Higgins situation. I think those are the only two that I feel good about their quarterbacks. So that's pretty much the easy decision for me.
Easy decision. What about you, Drew?
Same. It's not a whole lot of friction in this one. Yeah, I don't want anything to do with the Jags this week, and possibly for much of the season going forward. And whatever Higgins is doing, I think Tyler Boyd will still have a pretty good target share while Higgins comes back. And yeah, I got to believe in the talent and the consistency of Robert Woods paying off here.
I like it. So this next one here is from Michael Chat. He just got Zach Moss and Hollywood Brown for Cortland Sutton and Melvin Gordon. Did he win the trade? So I don't know if this is dynasty or redraft, but this is probably a redraft trade, I would have to imagine. But if you're still hanging around, Michael, let us know. In redraft, yeah, I mean, I guess I can never fully get behind any Bills running back just because we saw the first week or two it looked like Devin Singletary was that dude, and now Zach Moss is getting a lot of the goal line work, which has been very advantageous because the Bills have been scoring a hell of a lot of points. But it's one of those things where I can also see it switching back for a week or two, back to Devin Singletary. So it's like, and Hollywood Brown, man, he has been lighting it up. He's been doing pretty good. He caught a touchdown. He even referenced it in the post game press conference. I don't know if you guys saw that. He's like, yeah, I caught that one. So even he knew that the drops from the week before were an issue, and wanted to bring it up that he understood that dropping the ball, especially when you're wide open, coasting for a touchdown, not a good thing. So I don't know how. Oh my God, their rookie. I'm blanking right now.
Bateman.
Thank you, Rashad Bateman. I don't know how he's going to figure into that. That will be interesting to see. But yeah, I like it. Cortland Sutton, he looked good that one game against the Jaguars, and ever since it's been. And Melvin Gordon he's pretty much in a 50-50 timeshare with Javonte Williams. And I have to imagine as the season progresses, that's going to edge more towards Javonte. So, yeah, I like it. Zach Moss, Hollywood Brown. I'm not like super excited about any of these players, which I guess is the reason why I'm like, yeah, I guess whatever. But Drew, maybe you could put a little bit more excitement on this trade for me.
The last 2 weeks of Zach Moss have killed me since I traded with Larry in the listener league,
Oh,
and then Tyson Williams was a healthy scratch this last week. So, good move, Larry. I thought I had a solid move there for my team this year. It's been painful to watch Zach Moss punch it in a few times. So, no, I'm good with that. I think diversifying your team a little bit as well. Being able to get Moss and Hollywood, and I guess Hollywood just needs to have those Hollywood type catches to make them happen. If it's just your everyday run of the mill in the breadbasket hit you in the hands, that's what hurts them. So hopefully neither of these guys is locked into a starting spot for you. Hopefully they're a flex play or they're a bye week filler. Boom bust for Hollywood for sure. So hopefully they pay off for you this year and they hit at the right times. But I do think that the Broncos, that's a little bit of a mess now. And yeah, I'm a big Javonte guy, so I'm waiting for that switch to get flipped this season.
all right, Bill. A little bit more excitement on the trade.
Yeah, you're not getting that. This is pretty much a okay, whatever trade. So the question of did you win the trade? No, you didn't. You didn't lose it either. It's fine. And I you're getting equal parts on both sides, in my opinion. It's just a matter of what you prefer. And so I'm totally fine with it. And I do think that the one positive, like was just mentioned, is that you're not banking too much on one offense. So yeah, I mean, it's fine.
Bill, with all the excitement, he hit it home for us so that we could go out on a high note there. But we hit all the questions. So let's hear what we saw on the timeline. This is our favorite part. This is what we're here for. This is what the show's all about. And this first one is from our man, friend of the show, Short Logic. By the way, I'll hype it up one time real quick. FTC, Short Logic is in there. A lot of other good people. Lindsay was in here earlier. She's in it. Our man Larry from the Dynasty Hot Sauce Pod is in it. A lot of good people are in there. So if you want to be in as well, just hit us up. Just catch one of us at our handles or catch us at the show handle, and we'll throw you right in there. It's a good time. A lot of good people, a lot of smart people talking fantasy and other stuff. But this was a tweet he put out, and I liked it, so I wanted to throw it on here. So this is from short_logic at short_logic. Okay, everyone, gather around. It's fun poll time. Which brother has more catches? Trayvon Diggs' season total or Stephon Diggs' highest game total? So just to put a little background on here, just so that everyone knows. Trayvon Diggs currently has 5 interceptions. He actually ran one back for a touchdown. And Stephon Diggs, so far, his game high for this season is 9 receptions. But he has the same amount of touchdowns as his brother, which is, I mean, if you would have said that before week 1, you would have been laughed out of the bar you were drinking in, kind of like Urban Meyer. Had to throw that in there. So all right, guys, this is a fun poll. Is it Trayvon or is it Stephon? Drew, I'll let you go first since Stephon plays for your Buffalo Bills.
Man, it has to be Stephon Diggs. Over the course of the season, he'll have a 14 catch game somewhere. It's bound to happen. As well as Trayvon is doing, as many opportunities as he'll have. With the division that he plays in, if Tyler Heineke throws him a couple of picks one of these weeks, he could definitely rack some more up. But that would be record-setting pace, which would be awesome. I'd love to see it. I think in a league now where everything is skewed so heavily to let the offense run things, I would love to see a defensive player, especially in the secondary where it feels like they just can't do anything. I'd love to see somebody there stick it to the rules and stick it in the record book, man. But I think pragmatically, it's got to be Diggs. It's a matter of time before he and Josh Allen just have a couple of those games where they lock in and Diggs has something like 35 catches over 3 games or something like that.
All right, Bill.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's just hard, right? Because when a defensive back starts to show that he's getting aggressive, coming towards the ball and stuff like that. The offenses will change. They'll call different plays. They'll start maybe throwing it in a different direction. So the opportunities are going to fade as the season continues if he keeps playing as well as he has. So, I think that's the biggest concern. So I think it's just, it just makes logically the most sense, I think, to pun intended,
Nicely done.
to go with Stefan in this case. But yeah, it's a good question. It's worth the conversation. It's fun.
Yeah. So, man, I want to say Trayvon Diggs so bad, obviously, because I'm a Cowboys fan. But um, even if his game high for this season stays at 9, which I don't think it will, but even if it stays at 9, I think it would be very hard for Trayvon Diggs to beat that number. Yes, he has 5 already. Yes, the quarterbacks in the NFC East are not amongst the elite, besides the quarterback that he plays with. So he may be able to pick on them. He picked on Jalen Hurts a little bit. He still gets one more against Jalen Hurts. He still has one against Daniel Jones this week and one more, and then 2 against Taylor Heineke. So yeah, I want to say Trayvon, but it's obviously Stefan. But that'll
Does he
be a
play?
fun.
Does he
What's
play
that?
Davis Mills in the next few weeks? Because that could do it in 1 week for him.
That's true. He could intercept Davis Mills like 3 times and really put himself in there. But yeah, I mean he's been playing lights out. The defense, I think, has been playing above their talent level, and I think a lot of that has to do with coaching. But yeah, eventually, I mean, they already faced the Bucks. I think they still have to face the Chiefs. There are some high impact offenses that are going to come in there and probably bring that defense a little bit closer to you know the middle of the pack, or maybe even below the middle of the pack. But um, I'm just enjoying the ride right now. Trayvon Diggs, Lindsay in the FTC in the timeline chat put that meme up. 2/3 of the earth is covered in water, and the other third is covered by Trayvon Diggs. That was beautiful. I love that. Um, and yeah, I mean he's gonna have a hell of a year, but beating Stephon Diggs season high uh, catch total for a game, that's going to be hard, even if it stays at 9. And I agree with Drew. I don't think it will. I think he's going to have a 12 or 13 or 14 reception game where he. I'm actually surprised it didn't happen against Houston, but they got such a big lead so early on that it wasn't necessary for it. So they play the Chiefs. It could be against the Chiefs this week because that's going to be an offensive uh, explosion. So that was a good one, Short Logic. Oh, here we go. We got a little what is that, calcium oxide there? I don't know. I haven't taken science in a while, so I could be wrong about that. But another Michael Woods question, or Michael Woods. Geez, I'm combining names here. Robert Woods question: Are you starting Robert Woods or Mike Williams this week? And this is an interesting question because Mike Williams had been very hot, nuclear hot, if you will, and Monday night happened, and there was no heat. He barely had enough to toast bread on Monday night. So where are you going this week? Is it Robert Woods or is it Mike Williams? And since I need a little bit of extra time to think about this, Bill, why don't you hit us up with an answer?
Yeah, so Woods is playing tomorrow night against Seattle,
Yes.
and Williams is playing versus Cleveland on Sunday. So yeah, I mean, man, I I kind of want to go Mike Williams here. Just because I feel like he has been the guy who's getting those targets. This was just a weird game for them, and So I think I'm going Mike Williams. Woods, he's not the number one guy, right? I mean, it's obvious, right? Kupp is the guy. That's where Stafford's looking. Woods got a thank you touchdown at the end of the game. It's like a lot of things that, like, I'm not sure that he's quote unquote back. So I think I would rather go with Mike Williams and the upside there. And I'm just not sure the upside is there with Woods at the moment. I kind of want to see it before I start getting, super confident in playing him.
All right, Drew. Is it Bobby Trees or is it Mike Williams this week?
I don't know why you guys brought me on the show when Bill just says everything I'm going to say. So, yeah, I'm definitely
Let Drew go first.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see it, especially when you're comparing guys like this. I'd like to see it from Woods, consistent targets. But yeah, I think, they didn't really need Mike Williams this last week. Eckler had his game. Herbert still, of course, can support a large cast of team members around him. So I would like to think that the Browns will be pretty competitive this week, and it should be a fun game to watch. And I think Williams will need to make a couple of big plays to either keep drives going or put a score on the board. So I would most likely lean Williams unless maybe the rest of your wide receivers are all high upside guys as well, and you need to have somebody that you think maybe has a PPR floor or something like that.
All right, so I'm gonna go in the opposite direction, and I think some of this has to do with the fact that I've just loved Robert Woods for a long time and have hated the criminal disrespect that he's gotten in fantasy year after year. It was interesting after their loss to Arizona. Um, their head coach said, Sean McVay said, we need to get Robert Woods more involved. And he actually said that about another player earlier this year, and that player was Deshaun Jackson, and that was the game that Deshaun Jackson had over 100 yards. So I'm wondering if he realized after losing to Arizona that it can't just be the Cooper Cup show, maybe a bomb or two to Deshaun Jackson or Van Jefferson, and then give Robert Woods whatever table scraps are left after that. So I think he is going to try to plan more plays for Robert Woods. And I think they're going to come into that Thursday night matchup pissed off. They had come off of a huge win against Tampa Bay. They were flying high, and I think maybe they were flying a little too high, got too close to the sun, and the Arizona Cardinals burnt them up. And I think that is a humbling experience, and I think they're going to come out there guns blazing. Seattle is not an elite defense by any stretch of the imagination. I do think they will score a lot of points, and I think they are going to try to get Robert Woods more involved. Mike Williams up against the Browns. Browns are a good defense, man. I mean, say what you want, but they're a good defense. And if anybody can take out the wide receiver one right now for the Chargers, they can. So yeah, I'm gonna go contrary, and I'm not saying that these guys are wrong because these guys came up with plenty of good reasons to start Mike Williams, but I do think this is the Robert Woods week. So calcium oxide, go go start a little bang there with Robert Woods, in my opinion. But the other guys did give you Mike Williams, so take all of our wisdom and decide wisely. But let's hit it back to the timeline now again, and this one here is from former guest on our show, Clinic Cap at Clinic Cap. So what are we doing with Allen Robinson? And that is a damn good question because a lot of people have had a lot of love, including yours truly, for Allen Robinson. And Matt Nagy don't love Allen Robinson no more apparently because he's like wide receiver 60 or something like that right now. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, wh- what do you do with Allen Robinson? I mean, keep him on your bench. I mean, wait for it to come back around. I mean, because he, you're definitely not dropping him in dynasty because he's going to be out of Chicago next year, and God willing, he picks a team with a decent quarterback that can get him the ball. But even in redraft, I mean, what are you dropping him for? But Dawson Knox, maybe. Okay. I mean, he's been pretty lights out, but we all know that that can go up in smoke in a week or two. What are the other big names that we were reaching for this week? Damian Williams. Okay, like we might get 4 or 5 weeks of okay running back RB2 flex play. But like if A Rob goes back to being A Rob in 2 or 3 weeks, that Damian Williams' time in the sun isn't going to be worth it. So you keep him on the bench and you just pray that Chicago figures out enough offense to get him involved again. Drew, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I've always had a soft spot for him. Hate to see where he is this year, but yeah, I don't think I could bring myself to drop him in any format unless I've got super shallow benches and I have a screaming need somewhere and I can pick up a suitable, short-term replacement. But even then, I'm trying to get him back as soon as possible. After somebody else in my bench or my team falls off. So for Dynasty, I mean, I'm going out making offers wherever I can. You know, I believe in the talent. I think, like you said, if he's not there, assuming he's not there next year, hopefully he goes somewhere that's good for him where he'll get used again. But yeah, I mean, I don't have him in too many places, so I've got a lot of chances to go out and try to get a hold of him. I think the tough part is a lot of places that I don't have him. I have Mooney already, so that's a little bit of a hurdle to get over. But ultimately, I can be patient if I can get him at a value now, and then I'll trust that next year I can hopefully get better production out of him. So I'll grab them where I can if I can get them reasonably, and then the places I do have them, I'm holding on to them.
All right, Bill.
Yeah, I'm not cutting him, regardless of situation. It's tough though because I just believe in the talent. It's just so like top 12 talent that it's
Right.
it's so difficult to um, just bounce them because we talked about it earlier. The quarterbacks have been just garbage. And, there is the hope that Fields will progress as the season goes on, and yeah, it might be a struggle in the next few weeks because Montgomery being out, that sort of thing. But like there's still that hope. And I understand it's burning a roster spot for you in redraft. That's tough. But for unless you're in an 8-team league, like I can't see making that move just because it's the talent is just there. And if he dies on my bench, he dies on my bench, and I'm okay with that. That's just a risk I'm willing to take. And if I have to make a cut, once I get to the playoffs or something like that, that's a different story. But right now, there's just no way I could make that move.
Yeah, I would rather him burn a bench spot all season than end up blowing up in my face because another team picked him up and used them against me. So um yeah, I mean, I think we all said it. You just gotta struggle right now with Allen Robinson. He's struggling, you gotta struggle with him. And um, you know, Dynasty, start sniffing around. Especially if Allen Robinson is on a team that's 0-4 or 1-3, and they ain't going nowhere. Team's not good. Hey, what do you want for Allen Robinson? He's not really doing much. can throw you a little something here. What are you looking for? And see what happens. Because, especially if you're a contender and you're 3-1, 4-0, and you can have him sit on your bench for a couple weeks, hopefully while he figures it out, and he's not costing you much. Try to get him on the cheap right now because I don't think this will last all season. It's also Matt Nagy, so anything is a possibility. But I think before long we start seeing the Allen Robinson of old. I hope. I just keep saying that. I'm hoping to speak it into existence. So let's hit another one here. Here we go. We got a start sit question. I love start sit questions from Alex at Willie Gronka. Start one, half point PPR, Miles Sanders at Carolina or Tony Pollard versus the New York Giants. So this is interesting. So since I am an unbiased party here, Bill, why don't you go first and let us know who you would take in this situation.
Yeah, this was tough. Like Miles Sanders is not getting as many touches as we expect, recently. Going up against a tough team, so there's a potential that they're still going to need to pass the ball, and it seems like those are all going to Gainwell, like all the passes. So that's a big concern for the upside of Miles Sanders. Now you go to Pollard, right? He's not we don't know what kind of usage he's going to get. He seems to be getting consistent usage, but is he going to be touchdown guy? It's a tough one. So I think I'm going to just go by the matchup. And I feel like, I don't know. I think that Dallas might smoke the Giants. So I feel like Pollard's probably got more chance to get some touches a little later in the game. So I can't believe that's not where I started in this conversation, but as I'm talking, I've convinced myself to go with Pollard instead of Sanders. So, but it's a close one in the poll, and that's why I thought this would be a good one for us to talk about. Hey, Russ.
Hi.
How are you?
Obviously, if you're watching us on the YouTubes, which you should be, a very attractive man has just popped onto our screen. We have the one, the only Russ Fisher, obviously at Dynasty Outhouse. Russ, thanks for popping on, and you've hit us at a good juncture here. You can talk about Miles Sanders and Tony Pollard.
I actually just finished recording Dynasty Game Night, and we ended the show. I don't remember if we were still recording or not, just like being sad about Miles Sanders and how he needs to just get cut so he can go somewhere else and be awesome, because he's really good at football. Just someone in the Eagles front office was just like, no.
I think
because Peterson was screwing him over, but at least he played him a little bit more.
Mhm.
And now just, this is ugly. What, 2 runs? I guess it was like 2 out of 4 runs, which, hey, 50% ain't bad, right?
Right.
But Miles, he's so good. Just give that guy the ball. Go somewhere else.
Yeah, I remember earlier in the offseason, Nick Sirianni was talking about playing rock, paper, scissors, and maybe Miles Sanders beat him way too many times. I don't know. It just all of a sudden, their game plan has been like, Miles Sanders, we don't like you anymore. We are not going to give you any opportunity whatsoever. They played against Dallas 2 weeks ago on Monday night, and he had 2 rushes. That I don't care if we're talking about the worst starting running back in the league. That's criminal. That even Urban Meyer week 1 gave James Robinson like 5 rushing attempts.
Oh, that's such a sad comparison.
And Drew, before I get sad as well, why don't you who are you with this week? Miles Sanders or Tony Pollard?
If it's got to be one of the two, I agree with Bill. I think game script is going to make more opportunity. I think the defense there could potentially give up a couple big plays. So Pollard is good for a blow up game here or there. So if I had to choose between one of those two this week, I would go with Pollard. If we're talking other opportunities, I would see what Tony Pollard plus something would get you back, whether it's another running back or another position, and then you'll be forced into Sanders, and at least you have an excuse why you started Sanders. But yeah, between those two, I would have to go with Pollard this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going Pollard, and it's not even the Cowboys' love. It's just that, like, how many touches is Miles Sanders going to get this week? 5, 7, 9, like that's gross. And I actually think that Philadelphia might be able to keep it close with Carolina, but I don't think it's going to matter. Like, for some reason, Nick Sirianni has just decided Miles Sanders, I like Kenny Gainwell way more than I like you, and I am going to give him more opportunity. And I don't know why, because don't get me wrong, Kenny Gainwell has done well with what he's been given, but he's not more talented than Miles Sanders. Like, in no respect do you watch those two guys on film and go, Kenny Gainwell is definitely the better running back. I understand why Nick Sirianni's doing this. Like, it's just, I don't know. And I know a lot of people that were on Miles Sanders for this year. We thought maybe this was going to be the year. Russ was in on. I know a lot of people were. And guess what? They had a lot of good reasons why he should have been. This wasn't a name we pulled out of a hat and just said, okay, we're all going to be on Miles Sanders. That's cool. Like, we're going to push him to the moon. There were a lot of good reasons why you should have been on Miles Sanders, but now there are more good reasons why you should stay far, far away from Miles Sanders until something changes. And hopefully that's this week, but we can't put him out there until we see it more consistently, where it's not a half dozen touches and that's it. So that's actually our last question, but I want to give Bill and Drew, I want to give you guys an opportunity to say whatever you got to say, man. Episode 100, man. We made it. We did 100 of these things.
Hey, look, Ma, we made it.
See, Russ knows. And so I want to give you guys the opportunity. Drew, I'll let you start, since I don't want Bill to steal everything that you're going to say and say it before you. So Drew, I'll let you start if there's anything you want to say.
Yeah, I am just so glad to be able to join you guys every week at this point, and it's been such a fun ride to listen to you guys early on, and couldn't be here without giving a little credit to my father-in-law, Bobby, who let me know that he was on as a guest once, hanging out with y'all, and then that started it for me here. So a huge shout out to him, and thank you for the introduction to this fun life here, and thank you too for letting me fill in a couple of times. And it's been just such a good experience to be able to talk and chop it up and be able to have an outlet for all the stuff that people at work don't want to talk about. So hopefully it's been good for you guys, and I hope to be around for 200.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, man. No, I mean, like I said at the start, it's just, it's surprising that it's been 100 episodes already. And, I think we hopped on with the DAP network when Russ started it, episode, 20 something maybe. And so, a large percentage has been on the DAP network, and that's been a lot of fun. And, it's funny. I would love to go back and listen to episode 1 just to see.
No, never go back. Never go back.
We should do that as a watch party. We should
how
all
uncomfortable, because two guys that had never really even done podcasting, do this, and I don't know how. We were probably a little too formal at that time. We were probably a little, just saying, just the way we spoke was different. Our comfort level just a little more uptight, that sort of thing. And so it's fun to see the progression, and it's cool that we got the FTC now, and it's just, there's a lot of things that would have never happened, and we've met a ton of good people from doing this podcast and so or this YouTube show, I guess. And so it's it's been a treat to do for sure, and it's been a good run to 100, no doubt.
Yeah. Honestly, this is something that I think maybe the only person that really knows this is Bill. But I decided to start this podcast at a time in my life that things were not going very well. I had just been let go from a job that I absolutely hated, so that was kind of a blessing in disguise. But I wasn't working, trying to figure out what my next job was going to be, and I just had this like nagging thought in my head, and it was like, dude, you've always thought about starting a podcast, start a podcast, start a podcast. And then I had another nagging thought that was like, well, how do you do that? So I reached out to a lot of people, but I'm actually glad Russ is out here or on the show, excuse me. Because one of the people I reached out to was Russ, and I said, I like, how do I do this? And he's like, you just go out and you do it. Like, there's no magic formula. There's no, just like, get your laptop, get a microphone, and go. Just do it. And I will remember that conversation for as long as I live, because that was the catalyst to start this. I put a tweet out. I was like, "Hey, thinking about starting a podcast, looking for a co-host," and a few people responded, and Bill was the first person to respond. And I said, "Cool, like I want to just talk with this guy and see like if this is what it is." And I've told this story before. We talked for 3 hours all about football, and I was like, "This is it. Like this is the dude that needs to be my co-host." And we hit it up. We started this podcast, and it has been just fun ever since. Drew came on recently as a permanent host. He guested for us a couple times. He had filled in for us a few times, and I couldn't think of two people that I would rather do this with every week, week after week. So I want to thank you guys. Russ, you can come on anytime. Um, but I want to thank you guys for making this so much fun, because you guys aren't my co-hosts. You guys are friends. We text with each other. We've talked about family, life, and football, all of the above. And I just want to personally tell you guys how much you mean to me. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Um, you know, and Bill said it perfectly. Bill, like, we have the fantasy timeline chat. Like, we met so many people doing this thing. We've met people through eliminators that for some reason get called celebrities for. Like, Bill is a celebrity. I mean, Bill is pretty big time, but me, I'm not a celebrity. Like, I'm just a guy sitting in my kitchen talking about fantasy football. That's it. But I've met so many people through those eliminators, and that's so cool. And um honestly, it all goes back to like the people that watch the show and the people that reach out and say, "Hey, like, love what you guys are doing, keep it up. Hey, love this one thing that you talked about. Hey, I love the fact that Bill and Josh can argue about Trey Sermon." Like, just like the craziest stuff that people reach out and like are appreciative of. And we're just kind of like, oh, we're just like talking fantasy football, but people dig it. And so that is like the most, like satisfying part of this is like we get to talk to people who listen to the show and people who are like, yeah, I like what we do. And guess what? There are people who don't like what we do. And you know what? I like those people too. You know why? Because you have listened to the show at least one time, and we have been able to tally that as a download. So appreciate the 1-star reviews, appreciate the people that have hit me up in DMs and tell me that I suck at this thing, because hey, listen, I'm never making it to ESPN, so I might as well just have a little bit of fun doing this. So thank you to you guys too, because without the people telling us that the show was a 1 star, we couldn't get a laugh. We couldn't look over that stuff together and just go, It's pretty funny. So, but yeah, that's all I got. Russ, I want to thank you too, because when you reached out to us and said that you were starting a network and you wanted us to be a part of it, I was confused because I was like, wait a minute. Dynasty Outhouse wants us to be a part of his network. I don't get it, but yeah, like we're gonna do it. Like, I mean, I somehow have tricked him into thinking that this was good. Um, so yeah, we'll jump on your network, and through the network, like we've gotten closer to your now co-host Rocky Petrella, and we've had great conversations with Brian Haar, and Justin at Run DFF is on there. I mean, Casey Kasem is so cool, and her show is so good. Like, these are people that I probably would not have been able to have better interaction with if not for that. So, Russ, you're a big reason for this, and I've said this a couple times too. First time I ever got on a podcast was on the Trade Addicts pod. So, you let this loose into the world, Dynasty Outhouse. So all the 1-star reviews, you can blame Russ Fisher.
Proud Papa. Proud Papa.
But on that note, again, thank you to everybody. The chat was awesome. So many questions. That makes the show so much better. So if you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you've hit subscribe. Make sure you've hit the bell, because not only do you get us, you get the Dynasty Junkies when they do their stuff on YouTube. Every once in a while, Russ wants to share trade addicts with everyone. He's on here too. He does his Outhouse Thoughts, which are awesome, on here as well. I mean, you're getting just great content no matter who shows up when that bell goes off. So do that. If you're listening to us in podcast form, thank you so much. Again, an hour and 16 minutes, you could be doing anything, like literally anything else, and you've decided to listen to us, and we appreciate it. Make sure you hit subscribe as well if you just kind of tripped and fell into our podcast. Leave a rate and review. We do read them, trust me. We've seen the 5 stars and we've seen the 1 star, so doesn't matter what you give us, we will see it, we will read it, and it just gets us out there in front of more people. So, Russ, is there anything you want to say on our 100th?
See, the funny thing is, you thought I actually listened to your show before asking you to join the network. Ryan's like, you should get these guys on. I'm like, I've never heard of them, but sure. I mean, yeah, completely lying. You know, it's funny. I remember, because I was bored one day, 100 episodes of the show ago, and I'm like, I want to start a new podcast. Who's got some ideas for a podcast? Almost instantly, Josh DMs me. He's like, I've been kicking this around for a while. Just because it's you, I'll actually tell you what it is. And before he even told me, I'm like, I'm not going to do this, because clearly this dude knows what he wants. And he tells me literally this. He tells me the fantasy timeline. And I'm like, that's an awesome idea. You should do that. You know, that's a great idea. And yeah, go. I'm not going to steal that from you. That is, yes, absolutely awesome. And this show is absolutely awesome. And I am proud and happy and other happy emotions that you decided to bring it onto the DAP network, who is ultimately better for having you as part of it.
And we have gotten better being associated with the DAP network. So on that note, the Love Fest is over. Now
The Love Fest is never over.
Well, that's true. We get to start the march, like Drew said, the march to 200 now. So when Drew and I are old and gray, because Bill is already old. He may not be gray, but he is old.
I went right to white. There's no gray. It went
Don't worry, Josh's will be gone before he really goes gray.
blonde to white.
You ain't kidding, man. That's the perfect thing. I will never go gray. I will never have hair again, but I will never go gray. So on that note, you know what? Let's for the 100th episode, everybody can get us out of here.
Late.
Late.
Late. I'm letting Bill